Victor Indrizzo's drumming has shaped some of the biggest records of the last 30 years. From Beck and Sheryl Crow to Lizzo and major film scores, his sound is everywhere. Armed with his signature Orange County bell brass, Victor carved out a studio legacy that's still felt today. This is the Fully Vented Podcast. Now here's your host, Jared Fallon.
So welcome to the Fully Vented Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Fallon. Today we have something awesome planned for you guys. Some drummers make you tap your foot. Others sneak into your memory without you realizing it. Today's guest has done both on records with Beck, Chris Cornell, Sheryl Crow, Lizzo, and in the movies like Horrible Bosses and Crazy Stupid Love. He's the definition of a working musician, a guy who's seen it all, played it all, and still shows up hungry to create. On Fully Vented, we are hanging out with Victor Indrizzo.
Yeah, that was very nice.
I don't know if you're familiar. There is an intro to Orange County of a promo video they did back in the day that had a walkthrough of the shop, and they had all the artists listed. I don't know if you're aware of this, but your name is actually spelled wrong on that.
I do remember that, and that was that's been, especially early on, it was never spelled right. So there's so many records, like, when they do, not that anybody looks at record credits, but a lot of
Oh,
them
the
it was
liner
hard
notes,
to
yeah.
find. Yeah. And yeah, there were some big ones for me that were misspelled, which was a drag, but it was just like, yeah, whatever.
Like
Nobody really cares.
I'm the drummer. I made it on the record, right?
Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah.
No, it was funny. I was telling them, I'm like, I hope I got the right guy. I'm like, it's not the same spelling.
Yeah, there's another guy out there.
Yeah, another Victor taking your credit over there.
Yeah.
So, question for you. Can you describe O.C.D.P. in a few sentences?
For me, what attracted me to it was guys in a garage making drums that loved drums. So it was the passion of that. Uh, and I loved that they were being made in the States. And I just anything, especially at around the time when I first, got introduced to them, they just passion is really, I could say it in one word because I could see how excited everybody was and how much heart they were putting into it. And that's how I felt about drums. So that's what attracted me.
Right on. Can you describe a vented snare? And is there any song out of all of the things that you've recorded that stands out to you with the vented snare?
Man, to be like I wouldn't remember exactly what things I used a vented snare on, and I would have to say I ended up using my favorite drum ever that I use to this day on literally 99% of the things I do is the O.C.D.P. bell brass. That is my go-to. That is I literally almost everything. If I do an album, I use this one snare drum, and literally it's never far away from me. It's like right here. It's
Oh,
like
that is amazing.
this is the best drum in the world ever made.
Wow.
And it's funny because they didn't they weren't made for a long time, right? And they're kind of hard to get now.
They are they've done like reissues, but the one you're holding was a very, very limited run. And
Yeah.
yeah, for any of our listeners out there, in regards to the studio world, producers and engineers, a bell brass is their best friend. So everyone talks about the elusive Tama bell brass, but this one is
I like it better, and it's fun, like, because I've had the opportunity to use both, right? Or like shoot them out. And the thing that I love about a bell brass is like the level of tuning that you can get with it. You can tune them super high, get the nice open, ringy, beautiful thing. But what I generally do is tune it really low. And I
I
will
see.
have it very dead. And a lot of drums kind of fart out at a certain point when you tune them low. But these things hold low tunings, so you just get this really insane kind of fat snare sound. And it's like, I know podcast is vented, but my go-to guy is that bell brass. And there was something about it. I don't know. Like I like them better than the Tama Bell brasses, and they're hard to find. It's funny. I actually had gotten a couple when they were first making them because I was so just blown away by them, and I gave them away as gifts. I gave one to my tech and to a buddy of mine who was a composer that I worked with on a bunch of movies because he loved them, and they're just kind of this like hidden little gem, really. And if you
Oh
can
yeah.
track down one of these guys, it's like that's to me that's the drum.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, we are, you know, we're venting, we're talking, so that's where our venting is coming into place. Did you ever visit the physical shop? And if so, can you please describe it?
Yeah, I remember it was in a house and it was in a garage, the first place, and that was the thing. I remember I Daniel was the guy I first met, and Daniel invited me down to this house in Orange County, and I don't remember exactly whose house or it was. Like I said, my memory is kind of shot, and I think this would have been either 97 or 98. And I went to this house and there they were making these drum sets and meeting the guys in the garage actually building this stuff. I was like really I was just blown away. Like for me, anytime I meet somebody that really loves what they're doing, like I'm impressed by that. And yeah, I just was like I got to have these drums.
That's it's wild because the original shop was Daniel's, that was his mom's house, that was the garage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to think that they were building some of the greatest drums, you know what I mean, for top tier artists, literally, and you know, it's like in your
Yeah.
mom's basement, like no, it's your mom's garage. That's just so cool.
Yeah, and Daniel's a very special person,
So
right?
we've been
He's
hearing.
Yeah, he is a special person that just I don't know, there was something so kind and so generous about his spirit, and the guy just loves drums, right? And at that time meeting him, I was maybe 30 years old at that time, and I had been with Pearl before that, uh, and I was kind of a funny guy where I'm not I'm very introverted. So I was never good at keeping up with drum companies or like, you know, reaching out or even going to NAM shows or doing the things that you probably should do. I was terrible at it. Uh, and so, but I met Daniel and it was just so impressed by him and what he was doing and his love of drums that, yeah, and I was with them for, I think, over a decade, right? Or, you know, close to it. But
Wow. Um, who was your favorite drummer that played Orange County?
I mean, it's funny, you know, like I didn't really fit in with that whole thing. I am like, again, like just kind of this outlier. Like they had a lot of guys that were like punk rock guys. And while I did that, I played in a punk rock band, Sam I Am, as a younger guy. That kind of wasn't my thing. Like I really loved old soul music, right?
Mhm.
And while a lot of the drummers went for more high pitched, that kind of, you know, wide open sounds, I went low and dead, you know? So I feel like, you know, I admired Adrian. I know him and Adrian were like really the face of the company, and I liked his drumming. But it was never like, you know, oh my God, I want to use these because of these guys. I wanted to use them because I loved the drums and I loved the passion that they had about making them. So you know, one more time, I was just kind of this fucking oddball that was there on this, you know, with all these punk rock guys. Really, at the time, it was a lot of that.
You were marching to the beat of your own drum. I dig it, you know. Also, I think it gets overshadowed a lot because of just the I guess the more flashier drums that they made or the crazier, you know,
Yeah,
looking drums. But
yeah.
they've done replicas of old Radio Kings, very modest classic drums, you know what I mean? And they're versatile. You can use them in any situation. I just don't think they get enough credit for that, you know.
Yeah, matter of fact, you just reminded me. I forgot. I'd made a list of the different kits I got through the years, but I remember doing a TV show like The Tonight Show with like some artist, and it was like a pop artist, and I had like the light up kit. They had lights in the drums,
Oh.
like, and I remember I didn't own that kit, but they like
It
lent
was
it to
just
me
a
for a
backline.
speech.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. You're like, this is not usually my style, but sure.
But it was pretty fun, and I was like, this is pretty cool.
Rad. Um, how did you originally hear about OCDP? And like, you mentioned what drew you to play them, but how did you originally hear about them?
I was trying to think of that, and I think what the truth probably is that I met Daniel. I'm guessing through Kirsten. I'm not sure if that's true, like his wife, because
Mhm.
she worked at Zildjian. It was either that, or I met him when he was teching for Alanis, Gary Novak. Um, and I'm not sure if either of those are actually true, but I think that's the case.
Well,
That's a long time ago.
yeah, I was gonna say we are going back in time, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go with that. That's the story.
Almost
We're
30
sticking to it.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, do you remember what your first Orange County was?
Yeah. I remember I think I was about to go on tour with Scott Weiland. Uh and I got a green sparkle kit. I got very weird sizes. I think I got a 24-inch bass drum, a 10-inch rack, and a 16 or an 18 floor. Just like kind of bizarre, like extreme toms. I think there was a handful of years I was into this like kind of extreme, like a 10, but I would tune the 10 as low as I could get it.
Hmm.
And then
Interesting.
probably like an 18 and the 18 a little higher. It was pretty bizarre when I think about that now.
Interesting. Did you find it that you were kind of, since you could make anything you wanted, they were very pushing the custom envelope. You could get any size you wanted. Is that what drew you to go with those sizes?
I think I don't I think it was just I was looking to sound different, right? Like cuz that was my thing, is like I just wanted to sound different. And I remember at that time also, you know, like DW drums were very popular, and I remember going to hear those and they just sounded so, I don't want to slag anybody, but it sounded kind of generic to me, right? It sounded
Yeah.
like everybody else, and I didn't want to sound like everybody else. And that was the cool thing with Orange County stuff. Like they were so open to like anything different. And even though I was different than a lot of guys that they already had, like they were so open to that. And so for me, it was always about just trying to have my own sound. And
Hmm.
they kind of just fit with that. And it's funny, I did try a lot of vented snares and stuff like that, but the vented snares to me like worked great with big open tunings. But like when I wanted to go down where I like to live, it just didn't. It wasn't as. It didn't work out as good. So that's like why when the bell brass came along, that was my shit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's also, again, not to like knock anybody that loves or plays DW, but I can
yeah,
agree with
not
that.
at
It's
all.
almost, it's
Yeah,
like you played one, you've kind of played them all. Where I felt like I am fortunate enough to own a lot of Orange County. All of them have a personality to them. I don't know
100%.
how to describe it, and the feel is different. That's always been my thing. How does it make you feel when you actually play them? And
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. But you got into working with session stuff. How did that kind of come into play? How did you find
Uh,
yourself immersed into that
It
world?
was, I'll tell you, it was a weird thing and something a path I never thought that I would find myself in. Because early on, I did play in like punk rock bands, and I would play anything and everybody, and I loved all different kinds of music, right? So it was funny when I would be in a band, I would almost be kind of bummed. I'm like, wow, am I just going to play this one style of music? Uh, and in the 90s and even late 80s, like I got to play, there was so much work in Los Angeles where you could go play on different people's demos. uh, a singer songwriter, there would be a funk band, there would be a hip hop thing, a punk rock thing, all these different kind of things. And by going and recording on people's demos, I would meet engineers, and then engineers would go, oh, this guy, you should call this guy. And it's like it just kind of snowballed into something, because I wasn't a studied guy. I just played the records as a kid. But I think that because I had a love of such a like all genres of music, I think that's kind of how I just kind of lucked into it. And I think because I could play good with a click track and programming, there was a lot of people, especially, 90s and early 2000s, where there was so much programming going on. And kind of pre Pro Tools, like before they could kind of fix you to it, if you could play good with it, then you were gonna work. And so I feel like I kind of lucked into it.
Yeah, it seemed like you were that in that in between of where it went from tape to digital.
Yeah, which was amazing, right? Like, so I got to have the best of both worlds. Like, because I think that was important. It's like to learn how to play, a full pass and play in time, and then play with the programming that initially was coming out was kind of janky, right? Like, and there would be all this crazy things, and it wouldn't be quite lined up, or the loop wasn't quite right, and trying to figure that out. And I love the time period that I got to grow up in.
In regards to your drums, how did you pay for your orders? Or were there any perks to being an endorser?
Yeah, I think if I recall, I got my kits for free. Maybe, actually, I'm not sure if the first one I might have had to pay something for, and then I got the gig with Beck, and I remember getting just more of the toms of the green kit that I had, and then they would just make me stuff, which was really cool. Like getting the Beck gig was a big deal at the time, and it was, I guess it would have been 99, and Beck was pretty big then. And so it's definitely kind of a higher profile gig. And yeah, they gave me kits, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm envious.
Yeah.
How'd you end up landing the Beck gig?
I auditioned. I was on a record, a very funny record actually, a Sporty Spice solo album. And
Oh,
a lot of the guys in Beck were on that record. And after I played that session with them, they're like, "Oh, you should come audition. We're Joey's leaving, and we're looking for a drummer." And so I went and I auditioned, and I got it. And at that time, late '90s, early 2000s, if you were in the Beck band in Los Angeles, like that got you a lot of studio work because Beck was definitely like kind of at the height of his powers then. And uh, I guess producers and engineers definitely held the if you were playing with Beck, they held you in pretty high regard. So that was
gotcha.
that definitely led to a lot of stuff for me for sure.
So just being immersed in that world, that's how you just constantly keep getting the calls to like, "Hey, we have a session
Yeah, at
coming
that
up," or
time, I think like it just raised my profile. Fortunate for me because I was not a guy that could go around and toot my own horn. You know,
right
yeah.
on, right on.
I am a
Um,
living proof that an introvert can actually have a career.
is I mean, what do you think credits to the longevity of your career?
I think you getting lucky, and I think playing, if you get fortunate enough to play on some songs that are successful, that will lead to other work, or like just kind of build a reputation. And to me, it was always the engineers or the second engineers. And if you were cool and you got the job done and like the record was successful, you were probably going to get called back to do more. And that's kind of been the case.
It's interesting just hearing that perspective because I feel like, you doing all the session work would have, helped the Orange County's clout kind of get bigger, but it seemed like, they just signed the right guys and had the right guys on board that just, you know, propelled them. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that a lot of fans of the brand don't realize all the studio work and things that you probably used with those drums.
Yeah. Though,
Yeah.
it's funny, I also ran into a problem with some producers because there was this thing of like a lot of producers, if I brought uh one of my Orange County kits to a session, they'd be like, "Oh, we want to use a vintage Ludwig, or we want to use a Gretsch or something
Hmm.
like that." So there was like they didn't want to use new drums. So I would also run into this weird thing of like they would judge things with their eyes, or if it
and
wasn't
not
this
their ears.
vintage
Yeah.
thing, it can't be cool.
So do you think if they were just like looking at it and it wasn't fitting the vibe, or they just, like you said, they just looked at it and immediately wrote it
Yeah,
off?
because I think, honestly, I think you can take most kits and make them sound the way you want to. Like, for instance, just the fact of how I used Orange County drums, I would make them dead or like, tune them down. And I could make them sound like a vintage kit, but some people just they're like they judge with their eyes.
Yeah, totally. So besides doing, studio work and playing on records, how did the soundtracks kind of went the same way?
Yeah, I kind of lucked into it, and a buddy of mine who was in the Beck band, Lyle Workman, uh, got a job scoring the 40-Year-Old Virgin, and which the bell brass is all over that. And and yeah, from there, like that movie took off, and it was funny. I didn't read music at the time,
Oh,
and I just, we just played. He was like, "Oh, yeah, I came up with this cue. You play it, just record it." And then I started getting calls from other composers, and I had to tell them, I was like, "Look, I don't really read music." I was like, "If you send me the charts, I had band in junior high. I can figure it out." And that slowly turned into I went to a friend who could read, and I took lessons from him on how to read, and and then that turned into a whole other ball game basically. And I had a reading job last week. It still is a panic for me because you have to sight read and you're in
yeah.
a room with a bunch of guys that are great readers, and I'm always scared that I'm gonna mess it up. uh, but yeah, I still do it, and there are also times I mess it up, so
Yeah, it happens. You know, I was gonna say, my producer would probably agree. I fumbled a few times. It happens.
yeah. Reading and playing is not my favorite thing, but it was the thing that I've found, like having a career in music, or drums specifically, is like I got to try and do things that I'm afraid to do and try to get better at them. And I always, even to this day, I'm going to be 58 in a month, and I still have to be a student. I still have to keep learning and growing and figuring out
Oh,
stuff and
totally.
being able to pivot.
I just kinda in my head, I just sat here and kinda thought of, like, the parallel of, gotta be afraid, you know what I mean? Or that fear sets in, and you just kinda gotta go for it. I
Yeah,
feel like that's what Orange County did. The drums were very traditional, and they were like, "No, we're gonna go for it," you know?
100%.
Yeah, I think that was definitely, you know, something that they don't get the credit for, and Daniel had, like, a vision and just went for it. They weren't
Yeah,
afraid to try anything.
and I love that. Like and that's kind of how I always felt. I always felt like some weird outcast. That's just for whatever reason. And maybe a lot of people feel like that, but they felt a kinship with that. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, we're gonna try and do something different. We're gonna have our own voice, just be ourselves, and here it is. Take it, leave it, love it, fuck it, whatever. Like, I love
Yeah.
that.
So, I also want to ask you, what was the scene like, the music scene in LA, in the mid '90s, late '90s? What was that like?
I mean, to me, and it's hard to say because you have your own view of things, but and things are so different now. I loved it because there was so much music being made here, and there were still so many records being made all the time, and work in the studios. It was it was a pretty magical time, and there was just a lot of work. Uh, and that also, I don't like to get too jaded about things because things have just changed. The pandemic changed a lot of things, like,
Mhm.
and not all in a bad way. I had gotten to a point where I had studios like that I would go outside of my home. We would rent these great classic old studios, and I would work a lot of out of there. And then the pandemic hits, and I had to bring everything home and learn how to do it at home. And I had always had an engineer. And so all of a sudden I'm learning how to engineer. And And I love that. I love the fact that I can go walk out to my garage basically and I can work. And, but there's a part of me that misses that time where every day you would go drive to a studio and it would just be some totally random oh, I'm playing Latin pop music today. Okay, great. Oh, or this is a singer songwriter or whatever. It was like it was just a beautiful time because there were so many records being made. And I feel the thing that makes me sad for the younger generation today is like I got to go and figure out, like, I could get called for a record and maybe that record would end up in the cutout bin or not even coming out, but like I would go and I could learn how to be on a session with a room full of people. I could, learn how to deal with this producer or this different scenarios that I think now, they still happen, but they're not as frequent as they used to be. And, the bulk of the time I spend recording now, I spend by myself, you know
Hmm.
which I don't hate. I There's things about that I love too, because sometimes that's a better scenario than being on a session with a bunch of people and it's slow and they can't figure things out, or you know,
Yeah, it's also how music is, how it was consumed back then, and the
yeah,
budgets were different and
very different.
you know, yeah, there wasn't that, like you said, you have the luxury of doing it yourself now, we can just like myself, we're sitting here doing this recording of a podcast,
Yeah.
It's it's just different. And when did you notice the shift in the business or like when records started to change?
I think it was interesting because I knew this older producer that I had shared a studio with, and I want to say even around 2006, he was saying, "Oh, this is going to be over." Because of that's really when the people got iPhones and people were downloading music. He was like, this is over, it's never going to be the same. And I thought that he was kind of being extra jaded. That was kind of his personality, but really in hindsight he was right. That was kind of the start of the decline of it, though I think it really took a turn, maybe 2015ish, somewhere around there. It was like, wow, this is really changing, like, and I could see that, there was still a lot of records being made, but it was always the same people on the records, right? Or like it was the community was getting smaller,
I see.
uh yeah. And they didn't want to take chances, like on, like, if I couldn't do something and I recommended a younger guy, I was like, oh, hey, you should try my buddy. They're like, oh man, we can't afford to not get this right the first time. So
Uh,
whereas in the 90s or early 2000s, people are like, oh yeah, we're going to take 2 weeks to do the rhythm tracks, right? It was like, oh no, we want to do this album in a day. We want to be done with the drum
wow.
tracks in a day or 2 days tops. And that's where then that becomes a different skill set for a lot of people. And for the younger guys, maybe they just couldn't take the chance, you know?
Yeah, I guess you don't really think about it. Maybe that's why some records, resonate more with you is just the time that was able to be, spent and put into it and the budgets.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even my brief time working in studios, yeah, it's like here's a week, 2 days tracking drums, you remember the charts. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. We need to do overdubs this day. Sweet. Backup vocals. And it's like you're literally making a record that's going to be, pressed in a matter of days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Blows
and
my
that's the
mind.
cool thing about now too. There are things like you can work on it. You're like, oh man, this is out next week, or it's like the turnaround's pretty fast, and that's kind of cool too.
Was it like a surreal moment for you walking like, or being somewhere and hearing a song that you played on? Say you're walking around in the store or even just seeing a record on a shelf and you're like, I played on that.
Yeah, it's funny. Like even after all these years of doing it, it's still exciting to me, and and I feel less ashamed of some of the songs I play on now. There was a time where, like, I think one of the first really big hit songs was the Avril Lavigne "Complicated," and Sk8er Boi and all of it, her first record. And at the time, I did not think much of that record. I was like, oh man, this is for like teenage girls or something. And and now as time goes past and I meet younger drummers that were like, oh my God, I love that record. I was like, I feel less ashamed and kind of more proud of it now than I did when it came out. But
Really? I find
yeah.
that interesting where you're just kinda like, "Ah, this is another
I just thought it
paycheck,
was
just
kind of
another."
silly, I just thought it was like teen pop or something. And at that time, I guess I didn't deem it cool enough or what. I don't know. It's funny because I remember playing on other records at that time that I thought would be huge. And I remember going to do the Avril record and not thinking very much about it. And that record was crazy big.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I just
But
find it so, there's no way to predict it sometimes, you know?
there
I've,
is no way. And I will say this, like I didn't, even though I thought that that music wasn't like the kind of music that I was into, I still gave it my all, and I gave 100% to it and tried to put myself in that moment. Like I never would approach anything like it or dislike it. I would still give it my all, or try to put myself.
yeah.
I'm a 16-year-old girl. Here's what whatever. I'm sad. I'm happy. I'm this, whatever. Like, I think that's the key, really, that people don't think about as much in recording is that it's not just about the being technically proficient at something. I think of it as like you have to be like an actor in a role and you have to be able to connect with whatever the emotion of the song is. That to me is the
Mhm.
missing element that people don't talk about. You can have all the chops, you can do all this stuff, but if you don't have that thing where you can really play with some emotion, because to me, I think that's the weird, magical, intangible thing that actually ends up coming through.
Totally, it's hard it's how you said it, it's really hard to try to explain that to somebody sometimes, you kinda just have to, like, get it. I remember working with a producer, who's no longer with us, Caillat. He did I mean, I think it was House Aloud he worked out of in Jersey, but, did some really crazy records, but I remember one time I showed him a mix and was like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And he went, "It's horrible." And I'm like, "Man, I spent 2 weeks on this thing." You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
mixing, and it's like sometimes he's like, "I've worked on a mix for 2 hours and sent it, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever." Sometimes I've spent 2 years working on something, and I have to keep going back to the drawing board, and it's, like you said, I just don't know how to describe it to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, there are
Really
some
capturing it.
intangible things, and it's like to me the key of music is like it has to come from the heart, not the head. And if I'm
Mhm.
thinking too much about something, it's going to be wrong, right? It's just either
Yeah,
I'm going to find that place where I can connect with something. And the tricky part is if you are a person that's going to work in the studio, you're going to work on things that you're like, I don't like this. This is not my music. I'm having trouble, but you have to then kind of dig deep and go, I need to connect to the emotion of this or the headspace of this person if I'm going to actually make this work and be believable.
totally.
And like
Um,
that goes with mixing and all of it, right? Like you have to
yeah,
find that thing where it's like, okay, I can dig this. Like I got it.
yeah, totally. With the Avril, record, did you use Orange County? Did you use that green kit you talked about earlier? Did
I
you use
don't
that on the
think it was
record?
the Green Kid. I think I went to Mark Howard, who was a engineer producer. He had a kit there, and I used whatever was there, which was the case.
I see.
Sometimes you just go and whatever's. But I will say, like, probably on every other, I know, like the Colbie Caillat record, that big song "Bubbly," that was.
Mhm.
Orange County green deep wood snare that they had built me. Uh, and then I know all the Lizzo stuff is the bell brass. Uh, Everything else has been the bell brass. That's for sure. Even when the rest of the kit wasn't an Orange County drums kit, it would
The
always,
meat and potatoes were
always,
Orange County.
always.
Yeah, like, I most of the hit records too, if you think from 99, 2000, 2001, sometimes people didn't even realize, one, who was playing on it, but two, that they're
Yeah.
hearing Orange County drums without actually knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because a Colbie Caillat bubbly song is not something you would associate uh with, Orange County percussion like that. And that whole record is those drums. Like I use that. I
I
can't
mean,
remember
I'm
which
in my head,
drum.
I'm laughing too,
Yeah.
thinking, Chad Sexton 311, snare sound on Colby Calais.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I remember we ripped out pages of a magazine and put it on the snare drum to get it to go even lower because that the wood drum, I think this is before I had the bell brass, and it was the deep wood one, but at a low tuning was starting to kind of fart out. But when I put the paper on it, made it hold like an even deeper tuning. And
Hmm.
and that's it. It's a really good snare drum sound if you check it out. That whole
So
record.
kind of that like real dead backbeat kind of sound.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it just kind of speaks to the versatility of the drums. But did you ever have any backline like if you were on tour or anything like that, were they able to get you the gear that you needed?
Oddly enough, like sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I remember even in 2010 doing a Cheryl Crow video. Uh, and we were doing it in Nashville, and they found a kit, and it was like a weird
Huh.
blue sparkle or something like that. Like, yeah, I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe. And actually, in one of my favorite kits that they made me was mahogany shelled, which I
Huh.
think is pretty rare.
Oh, definitely. Most of their drums that they are known for would be, maple. Birch is rare. They obviously did acrylic as well, but yeah, mahogany,
Yeah.
very few I've personally seen.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful kit. And I have the one of the bass drums now uh is I put a goat head on it and I keep the front head off. And it's like one of my favorite kind of go-to drums still for like when I'm doing things that it used to be that people wanted you to play with programming. Now a lot of times I find for modern stuff they want you to sound like programming.
Huh.
And
And
so, in the search for weird sounds, I use that mahogany drum with a goat head bass drum head on it, and it just sounds like an 808. And it's pretty amazing.
I love that you're still rocking the drums to this day.
Oh man, I have them here, and I have an acrylic 26, yeah, that I use, and I use that for a lot of times. I would use that as a resonator, so I would put that in front of the bass drum I'm recording and then record that drum just wide open, and it's beautiful. I think you can see it right up there. That's the
Oh, that's cool.
acrylic
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Yeah,
the
for our
other
listeners out
I
there.
have another oddball thing too is that they made me concert toms.
Hmm.
uh, and I have an 8 and a 10, and I use those. I use the 10 still like almost every single day.
So, were you coming to them with these
Yeah.
ideas or like, "Hey, I'm doing a lot of studio work, we're going
Yeah,
for
I
these
was.
sounds."
Yep, I asked them for the concert toms, and I'm not sure that they had done any up to that point. Uh, and this somewhere early 2000s, because
Mm,
as things got more into people using programming, I was like, God, regular toms just they don't fit in. It just sounds too real, right? But there was something great
mhm.
about the concert toms where it kind of dies out quick, and you could either, tune them wide open or make them kind of semi-dead, and they did you just have a unique sound that fit really great with programming. And
Hmm.
so I've never seen. You probably know better than me, but I haven't ever seen other OCDP concert toms.
Rare. I have like only one. I think my producer Evan has one as well. We recently stumbled upon timbales that I
Wow.
had heard that they had done timbales, but never actually like seen them,
Yeah.
like in the wild per se. And then same thing, marching snares and marching drums.
Wow.
Octobans. That those are rare, but I know they went for it,
Of
which I thought
course.
was
Yeah.
super cool.
I guess it's not very surprising. They also made me a dressing room kit, and I still use that bass drum a lot. And it was tiny. It's a 16 kind of by 4 or 5 bass drum. They're really tiny that you could pack up and just like unpack and put in a dressing room. And I wanted it to be like a toy kit, basically, not like
Mhm.
a lot of companies have made these smaller kind of kits, cocktailish kind of kits, but I wanted this to be really crazy sizes. And I still have the tom somewhere. I don't know where the floor tom is, like, but it's like really cool, weird. And they built me this tiny snare drum, and it's pretty neat
I
and I think
mean,
pretty unique.
how can you not get behind that though? It's
And
like as a drummer, you want to find new sounds and you want to be creative, and this company's like, "Hey, I have this wacky idea. What do you think?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's
yes,
do it."
they were amazing. And even, I think at some point basically it got sold to Guitar Center, right?
Hmm.
And
So I was actually about to ask you about
yeah,
that. When did so you were with them, like you said, from '99, right?
I think actually 98, 98,
'98.
and I think the last kit they built for me would have been maybe 2012 or 13, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so it's around 2009. The housing market had its, demise right there. And 2009 is when they made that partnership with Guitar Center, the buyout everybody is aware of or not. But yeah, Guitar Center kind of started doing the import stuff. They had things made overseas, and the only way you could get anything like a USA custom was if you were still an endorser.
Yeah. And so they were still would make me kits. I know by the time I had the mahogany kit, uh, that, it was that they were doing that special for me, uh, which I beyond appreciated. And the people, there were still guys there to make drums that were doing an amazing job.
What was your, initial reaction when you heard about the Guitar Center deal?
I mean, I was happy for Daniel and Adrian, and I was like, oh, I hope they got paid, because I also know it's funny. I had a brief moment. I can't remember what year. It would have been maybe 99 or 2000. Sometimes when I was first with those guys, I had a drum tech who he's like, oh, we should make our own drums. And we tried to make a couple drums, and then he wanted to sell them. And I know how hard that is. It's not an easy business to get into, right? It's such a niche kind of thing. And you already have
Mhm.
all of these drum companies that are huge and have been around for decades. So I knew how hard it was, what they were up against and what they were doing. So part of me was happy for them. And part of me was like, oh, it's going to be different now. You know, there's
Yeah,
mixed feelings about it.
same thing,
Yeah.
mixed on my end. It was one of those where it's like it kinda marked the end of an era,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I could never afford those drums as a kid.
Yeah.
So it kinda is like that, well, now it kinda appeals to the masses. I can attain something I couldn't before,
Yeah.
but is it really the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's hard. That's a hard thing to keep going, right? Like you start with a bunch of guys in a garage making drums, and it inevitably you have to grow the business. And if you grow the business, you grow the business, and it's going to have to change. And the more people, coming and you know, but what's cool is that those drums are out there that they made, and they're kind of, you know, I have drums that are almost 30 years old and I still have them and they're great still, so that's kind of forever and cool. The people that love them will always love them. And I also believe there'll be other generations of people that will find them and hunt them down.
Oh, totally. I always make maybe you can, um help relate to this one. I always make the correlation with like or the comparison to Ludwig, when Ringo
Yeah.
exploded on the Ed Sullivan Show that like they were Ludwig was the company that everybody wanted to go with, and like I'm
Yeah.
like in for my era, my age, it's like yeah, that was Orange County. You
Yeah.
couldn't go anywhere without seeing them, and you have guys these days still collecting Ludwig and still enthusiastic about it, and I feel it's the same thing with Orange County.
Same, and I'm excited, even though I'm probably a weird outlier in the guys that, endorse them or use them, I'm definitely proud to have my little sliver of that history.
Oh yeah, and I mean, just I love that you were able just from your studio work, like how you're able to, take that sound and show it off to so many other genres, not just the like that ska and the pop punk scene.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes me really happy too because, they weren't one-dimensional drums, you know.
No.
Yeah.
I I think they just like I said, aesthetic wise, I think like you said, people make that judgment just with their eyes, not with
Yeah.
their ears.
Yeah.
That it just gets put in that box of they're just meant for one thing,
Yeah.
you know. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, a kit, can make you feel a certain way and play a certain
Yeah.
way based on the color, size,
100%.
obviously. But yeah, I can't express enough that these drums could be used for anything, and you've heard them whether you know it or not.
Yeah, that's for sure.
A couple more questions for you. What was your favorite design, do you think? I know you said you've had an array of drums throughout the years. Is there anyone that sticks out in particular to you?
I mean, the things, again, like the things that I've used the most and like I couldn't live without the concert toms that they made me, the bell brass, like it's still up on my kit and it will always be up on my kit till the day I die. That's for sure. Like that is my drum. That's my sound. I feel like if that is my sound. And the mahogany kit is really just was so special. Like because that even like, as unique as all their stuff is to me, though that kit that they made me was, it was just super special. And it was
Yeah.
always and even like after the Guitar Center thing when they were still guys like they were making me kits, like I knew that they were proud to be making them and they put a lot of love into it. And the day I would go pick a kid up, it was just like it was like Christmas. Like it was like Christmas because I knew that they put their heart and everything that they had into it and like I appreciated it and I still appreciate it to this day.
Yeah, and, again, I love the fact that you still play these. It's like I was gonna ask, when or why did you leave the brand, but it seems like you never did.
Well, I did. I am officially with Gretsch, and that kind of came about because I was, in the studio primarily. I was using an old Gretsch kit from my cartage guy, and I love those drums too. I really like for recording like the bulk of the kit that I will use. It's funny, I'll use a Gretsch kit, kick and toms, and then I'll have my. I mean, you could behind me right now. There's like my Orange County percussion concert tom with then Gretsch toms and then the bell brass snare. That's what I use today. So it's still like this hybrid of stuff. And but yeah, Gretsch was like that was the sound and like fit into what I was doing and recording all the time and you know but you can love 2 things.
Yeah, this is true.
Mhm.
I guess it's also, I know why sometimes, guys go to the bigger companies is because, you have backline and, the tech support, and no matter where you are, you can get
Yeah.
what you need.
Yes, that definitely made life a little easier on that end, and, but I have to say I genuinely love both, and yeah. And Gretsch has a similar thing where they're still making their drums in the States, and there's people there caring about what they're doing. And that to me ultimately is important. Is somebody doing something that they love to do and they have a passion to do it because I think that's the missing ingredient in most things, right? Is being passionate about something or actually caring. It's not just a thing, it's not just something I bang on. Like, I want somebody to have cared about what they made. And that was the most beautiful thing about the Orange County stuff to me is that there were guys that loved what they were doing, passionate about it. And then now I could be doing what I love doing. And it's just like this full circle. And I just think it just yeah, I just love that.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, looking back with the records you've been on, the what drives you to still have that passion to be creative?
I love drums and I just love music. And I still love it. And the thing is like there's always more to learn. There's always a new sound to chase after. You can always get better. You can always like I because I believe like recording is a different beast than like playing live, you know. It's a whole different skill set, you know. And I'm still chasing after that those perfect sounds without, it's funny because today you can fake things. You can put a plug in on this, you make it sound that way. But like I want to have a great sound to start with that you don't have to affect it that much, or it's like it's done the work for you. And then
Mhm.
whatever you add on top of that, great. Like that'll be cool. But yeah, I don't know. I just have always loved it. Um, and I just think that's the missing thing in our world right now, right? It's just fucking love, man. Just love.
Yeah.
Stop hating. Just fucking love.
Nah, I like that message. Do you have a preference between studio or live?
I think that I love both. Um, I love both. They're both very different, but I love recording. I love that thing of finding some new sound, like that's just different in live, you know? Live there's a little bit of like yeah, it's just different. And some if I end up doing recording for too long, then I miss playing live, and if I play live for too long, I miss recording. But right now in the mindset of like I just love recording.
It's interesting, like, who you ask that question to. I've had guys where you ask them and they say making a record to them is like if you're on, like, it's like doing practice and then, like, the live shows is actually the game, you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
we practice, practice, and then the live show, like, here we go. Like, some people aren't into as making the record as you would think,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, and that's probably band guys, right? Like or more like
Yeah.
because that's, the when I get called to do something, I'm only going to hear it that day. I'm only going to get to hear it once, maybe twice, and then I just react to it. And so I love that. Yeah, if I had to sit there and practice something play it over and over, that would fucking drive me crazy. I don't think I would be into that. I would have a
No,
different
totally.
answer for you. But, being in the session world, it's like, oh, you're going to hear it, react to it, and then you walk away from it, you know?
Yeah, I've had times of like, "Hey, do you wanna so and so, they need a tech, would you like to do it?" It's like, "Wait, how many times do I have to hear this song in in-ears during rehearsals?" You know what I mean? Like, that
Yeah.
outweighs I have to sit there and
Yeah.
contemplate the decision. I'm like, can I torture myself through this? You know what I mean? Is it
Yeah.
worth it?
Yeah. Because that's the
Yeah.
thing, like a live show, and it's cool, especially if you like the music or you like the artist. Like I've been playing with Alanis for almost 17 years, I think now. And like I still love doing that because I love the people. I love her. Right. It wasn't because I was like initially like, oh my God, I love this music. Like I do love the music, but because I like the people, I think and I know what's behind it. Uh, but you're playing the same things and you can do some different things. But I like the studio because for me, not having to sit there and learn things over and over, I can just
Mhm.
react to things and it's more like a conversation. And, instead of having the same conversation over and over.
Yeah, the studio, it's also fun, from my perspective of just you're taking somebody's idea in their head, you know what I mean? And you're adding your flair to it and your ingredient to make this, to bring it to life, super creative and finding new sounds like, I'd have times where it's like, okay, what do you want this to sound like? And they would give you examples like, all right, we kind of want that, ACDC Back in Black meets, something that was, recorded yesterday. You're like, okay, cool. Now your gears start to go, okay, how can I achieve that sound?
Yeah.
To me, that's much more fun and challenging than just like, no, this is the sound from the record. This is
Yeah.
the song. Here's the set list.
Yeah.
There you go.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same.
It's also interesting that, you still play with Alanis Morissette because, for our viewers out there that don't know this, Taylor Hawkins, before his days of, being in the Foo Fighters, was her drummer,
Yeah.
and he was an Orange County guy.
Yeah. And Daniel, Daniel, who's the founder of Orange County, worked for Gary Novak with and toured with Alanis for many years.
Yeah, I don't think, everyone just kinda associates Daniel with, Travis Barker and being his tech, but Daniel's teched with, tons of people. Eric Kretz from, Stone Temple Pilots, I know he's worked with him throughout the years.
Yeah. Daniel's great. He's
I was gonna say, did he ever actually tech any of your records or do any
no,
sessions with you?
no, I don't think so. He was already super busy.
Oh, so you weren't on the list, you didn't make the cut?
I didn't make the cut. Yeah.
Didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
Um, so we're about, an hour into this, and I just kinda wanted to, ask a few more questions and pick your brain a little bit more. Do you have any memorable stories of visiting, whether it was visiting the shop, sessions? I mean, your career has been so, you know, amazing. I don't even know how to word it into a question.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, no,
yeah, it's just like one of those things.
I think the thing that sticks out the most was the first time I went to Daniel's mom's house and walking in that garage because I don't think I knew what to expect. And it's funny because I did see the drums and I like they had wild colors. It was bold and I just loved like there's something special in anything you do, right? Like when you get attracted to music or drums or any of these things, because somebody's, again, not to be a fucking broken record, but it's like they're putting their heart into it and you can see
Mhm.
that they're enjoying themselves. And you're like, man, that's so cool. These guys love what they're doing, right? Like, how can you not be like, just stoked on that. I was just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. Like these guys fucking are love what they're doing. They're making these drums. Man, I want those drums. I want something that somebody put that much care, thought, passion into. Like that to me is what it's all about. That's why I want to play drums. That's why you want to do stuff because you love music. You love this, right? I have to do this. I'm going to go against everything society tells me, against what my parents are telling me, whatever, and it's like, I'm going to do this thing because I just love this and it speaks to me. And that, when you see that and you find that, that is special. And like, to me, I'm all in anytime I see that with anybody. It's like, oh yeah, you're all the way in on this shit. I want to be all the way in with you.
Yeah, it's kinda got that, like, infectious feel to it. It's like if, like,
Yeah,
you're passionate about it and I see the excitement, I wanna get involved.
yeah.
Here's a funny one for you. If you weren't a drummer, what would you have been?
Homeless.
Homeless.
I have no idea.
I was
I
gonna
mean,
say, what did mom and dad want you to be? What were your parents saying? Like, "Oh, he's
probably
a drummer.
anything
Great."
but a musician. Probably anything but a musician. It was I think anything in the arts, right? Like, and it's funny, I'm a parent now, and I would be scared if my kids wanted to do music, right? Like now I kind of
Mhm.
understand that side of it a little bit more. Uh, but to me, I just tell my kids, I think you have to figure out what makes you happy in this life, and then go for it. Because I would rather see them fail going after their passion than not try and just settle. Right? Life's too short. Life goes by real quick. It's like do what you love, figure out what you love, and then try and do that. And if you're lucky enough, and I believe there's luck, and then there's also just the thing of like being persistent. And I think that's what I was. And it was hard because I'm like, well, shit, I'm not the kind of guy that can go out and sell myself. I'm just gonna have to like be able to do this. Like I have to figure out a way to make this work. And for me, it was
Hmm.
just like the love of doing it and keep doing it and hopefully be good at it, you know, or good enough at it. And
Yeah. Charles Bukowski, what was that quote? Find what you love and let it kill you.
yeah,
That's kinda it's always kind of been my mentality. It's just
uh,
like go for it. That's why we're doing
you
this
could,
podcast.
yeah, you can always fucking pivot later on if you need to or whatever. Do what you got to do. And but yeah, and things seem like a long shot, but I find that the people who don't give up and you can ride that roller coaster, because it's been a roller coaster. It wasn't like just like this straight line of like, oh, I do this and now everything's fucking strawberries and orgasms. It's like, nope, this is going to be a ride, you know, and it will continue to be a ride. And but it's my passion, and that's I'm down for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine too, just with music to try to explain to people who haven't done it on, any level. It's highs and highs, lows and lows. Like
Yeah.
it's you could finish a tour where you've been selling out stadiums with a very big artist and then waiting 6 months for the next phone call.
100%. And,
You know?
that becomes exponentially more stressful. Like, throw some kids on there, like I have, like, and you're like, man. And then also an industry that's changing uh, and shrinking. What I used to make on a record, or like, you would make a back end on a hit record because you did the job through the union. So many jobs are non-union now, so you're just getting
Mhm.
paid that one time, and then you're watching or hearing yourself in a movie or something that's getting played a million times, and you're not making another penny. So it's changing, and then I have to do twice as much work to try and make the same amount of money that I used to, but it doesn't deter me, or like I have to like stay in a mindset of like gratitude, that I still get to do it and people still want me to do it, and not
Mhm.
become overly jaded by all of it.
Yeah, it could also be, I was about to ask, is it ever a time where you're just overwhelmed, you're like, when is the next gig coming? Or is it just, you just have that faith that the phone is gonna ring?
That is the funniest thing about all of this that is hard to understand, because that's exactly it. What you just said is like, I have to wait for the phone to ring. I can't call a producer or an artist and say,
Mhm.
hey man, you want to make some music? Let's do this. Like, it doesn't work like that. It literally has to be somebody has to think of you, and then the phone rings. And I remember talking to a very famous drummer, session drummer, Jim Keltner, and
Oh, yes.
he gave me the best advice. He's like, don't panic when the phone's not ringing. He's like, learn something new. Use that
Hmm.
time to make the motion. And so when I don't have work, I call people up now and I have them come to my studio and we just play. We just make something. And to me, it's the energy of that I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to get stuck and panic or roll up in a ball, which there probably have been times I have done that. But like, just keep the ball rolling, keep that energy out there, and then it comes back. And that's what this all
Yeah.
is about. Like, doing this, it's not like I can show up to a job every day and do this thing or that thing. But what I can do is keep trying to learn stuff and try and improve what I do. And I just find that motion of doing something towards my dream of playing music and all of this, like, it comes back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of advice. Do
Yeah.
you have any, do you have any advice for anybody who wants to try to get into the, whether it be live or anything, music, any advice?
Yeah, I would say, it's an interesting time that we live in, like with social media and stuff like that. And there are times I wonder how I would have reacted, because I can watch some drum videos and I will either A, be excited by it, or B, totally depressed and go, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do that. Fuck this, I
Yeah.
can't do it. And I think that you can't focus on other people, that you have to find your voice. And we all have a voice because we're all different, right? And if you, the
Hmm.
more you can find your voice and the more you can be honest with that voice and the more you can have a passion about what you do. And that to me is the intangible thing that you can't put in a 60-second reel on social media is that like, yeah, it's awesome to be able to have chops and do all these things. But if you can't connect emotionally with something and make that come across, like then you're not gonna be the guy that they're gonna call, right?
Hmm.
And so that's the thing is I would work on emotional intelligence for music.
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't that what music's supposed to do? It's
That's
supposed
what it's
to,
supposed to
tap
do.
into the emotions, right?
Yes. Yes. Because
Yeah.
that to me right there, what you just said, is like that's the most beautiful thing. I can put on a song and within 2 seconds, I'm gonna feel what I wanted to feel, right? Or like connect with that emotion. The first 2 seconds of a song, it's like, oh, there it is. I'm either happy, I'm sad, I'm like,
Hmm.
comforted, whatever the emotion might be. Like that's the most powerful thing about music, and that's why we love it so much, right? And
Oh, totally.
I
I
would
don't
figure that
know.
out more than learning how to play the reverse flamadiddle or whatever. That's what I would say to a drummer.
Yeah.
No,
It,
that's
it
all cool too. It's all got its place, but
Oh, totally. I mean, I watch some guys, like, I used to sit there and you like you said, you see the drum videos, I'm like, "I could never do that. I can't do blast beats. I can't do the" you know what I mean? Or the stick tricks. Or even laughing trying to do a podcast, I'm like, "I can't do what those guys do." And it's like, "No, what? No, we're good. Don't listen to the outsiders or don't" you know what I mean? Just
yeah. Because you
focus on
can
what I'm
do what
doing.
you do and you can do that thing, and that's a different thing than somebody else. And that's the thing we get caught up in the world of like comparing ourselves to others. Like that is just a losing battle. Like I just would say don't do that. Just figure out who you are and just be you as much as you can be that, the authentic version of yourself.
Yeah, that's why I think, going back to Orange County, why it resonates so much with
100%.
me and many other the collectors out there is that they weren't worried that they weren't DW or that they weren't like Pearl or they didn't have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had no mold. It was, they took their creativity and ran with it and just, I think also in a way it made other companies step up. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the other companies were kind of, like complacent. I guess if, to compare it, if you were on a gig and there's somebody playing better, like, yeah, kind of want to make you play a little bit better. You know what I mean?
100%.
Kind of makes you want to
100%.
step it up a little bit.
100%.
Yeah. Um, so a few more questions for you. Let's go down my list over here. We talked about some memorable stories. Is there any horror stories that you remember, or any bad moments that you care to share?
Well, never with the drums. Yeah, I like session failures. I've had,
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah, I had a session failure. I had a reading thing that was a fucking nightmare, actually. Like, it was like I had been doing a bunch of movie dates, and like I had said earlier, I took lessons to try and read better. And I was on a movie, it was an animated movie. I think it was called Pirates, and the whole day I am killing it. I'm sight reading. So sight reading, anybody who knows, like they throw a piece of music in front of you and then you do the take. And I'm getting it in the first take. So I'm like, man, I can do this now. And I'm getting really excited. And the
Mhm.
whole day I'm just nailing cue after cue. And I'm like, wow, I can read now. This is amazing. We get to the last cue and it was like a bar of 19/8, a bar of 7/8, 12/8. It was changing every couple bars, and I just couldn't do it. I just had to, and I ended up having to punch in every couple bars, and I felt devastated. It like took away the whole good feeling
Oh,
from the whole day. And but there was a valuable lesson in that. Like for me, it's just like, well, I can do what I can do, and I can keep trying to get better at it, and that's all I can do. And I'm not going to be great at everything, and that's okay you know like I don't have to
mhm,
be. All I have to be is the best version of myself I can be, and that's that
totally.
you know
Out of all the things that you've played on, is what do you? which one resonates the most with you?
Ooh.
I know it's probably hard to you've played on
That's
so
really
many
hard because when I get
yeah.
asked this, it's funny. I'll say something and then I'll think of something else like 10 minutes later after it's over. Like,
Yeah, well, we'll hang up and you'll be you like, "Hey, I thought of something else." It's
it's
always like
hard.
that.
And the thing you tend to do is you think of the things that were like a more recent thing. And the thing, it's funny because it's not necessarily music I would listen to now, but like the Lizzo stuff that I've done recently I really like because it's real. And it's funny when you listen to it, your first thought, it's like, oh, it's just this pop music and whatever. But especially on the new album, like they didn't grid things. We got actual sounds and there's actual people playing on a record in, 2025. Like
It's
it's
wild, yeah.
actually real
That's a
people and
thing.
it's pop music and it's like, you know, you wouldn't think of it and on first listen you'd be like oh yeah whatever but then like when you go and you listen you go oh wow it was thought out and like people like so right now I know after we hang up I'm gonna think of something else that's for sure but like I said I try to approach everything and put my heart into it and even that's the interesting thing looking back on the Avril stuff like in that moment I remember like going okay I don't like this but how do I make myself into it how do
Mhm.
I get behind this and put my heart into it? Because if I don't, it's not going to cut it. And that's the
Ye
thing. So I hope that all the things, the body of work, that no matter what it was, that I put everything that I had into it. So
no, that's it's I really admire that. I don't know how else to say it, just that, from being in that world, like we said, we do this for the love of music and just like, me thinking back of Avril Lavigne and just how it makes you feel and that you put that emotion into that, it's hard to capture.
yeah,
And, like, even this day, I hear a song sometimes and you have those goosebumps. It just is like, "Oh, okay." It was like, that was the feeling that you wanted me to feel. That was great.
yeah. And to figure out how to you can insert your personality without overtaking something. Like the funny thing about that song Complicated is I remember on the way to the session listening to a Marvin Gaye track called Who's the Man and it had these little hi-hat pushes. And so in Complicated in the chorus are these little hi-hat pushes that were directly related to the Marvin Gaye track that I listened to on the way to that session, which
Oh,
you don't
interesting.
think of Marvin Gaye and Avril Lavigne,
And Avril
so
Lavigne in the same sentence, no.
nor should you really, but
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, you're just borrowing. Isn't that what's the, what are they saying, like great musicians borrow?
oh yeah, that's all of it is right.
So
But
when you
it's
were doing when you were doing the Avril Lavigne stuff, were they giving you like the freedom like on that song Complicated, or was it
yeah,
did they have
no,
more of a
they let me do my thing, and I am in a rare position, especially now, where if somebody's hiring me, they're generally gonna let me do my thing, you know.
hmm,
And that is a cool thing because I guess after doing this for like 30 over 30 years like they know what my voice is they know what I'm you're not going to call me if it's like fusion or like some crazy jazz stuff or whatever there or double bass or something like that there's guys that you would go oh I think of that guy but at this
mhm.
point in my career people they generally know what I do and that's why they're calling me is to do that thing and that thing is largely my fucking bell brass. It's that sound.
It's your Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It allows you to be, an artist as well. It's like it's your like you said, it's your voice, you know? I feel like if they just wanted somebody to just come in and like, "No, this is what we want it to sound like, play this," it kinda can take away from, like you said, either the feeling or, the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So kinda coming to the end here, I wanna leave you with a final question before we over to our Patreon. Also, for our listeners out there, if you haven't already, head over to Patreon and subscribe. Victor's going to be kind enough to stick around, and we're going to pick his brain some more about drums, of course. But Did you realize OCDP was going to be such a legacy in the drum world looking back at it?
I probably I didn't think about it. I think I was thinking about too many other things, right? Like, no, but it makes me so happy because it's funny, and even really like having this conversation with you, just thinking about how unique that is, and it makes me happy. Like, even knowing it was funny because I wanted to get another one of these bell brass, and I looked them up online, and they were so much money. I was like, holy shit! Like, okay, they know. And that
Yeah,
makes
the
me
secret's
happy.
out,
Yeah, the secret is yeah, the G is
especially
up.
now.
It's
Like,
over. Yeah, uh,
yeah. Sorry to all the collectors out there. Victor's now to blame for
yeah.
the
I'm
price
sorry
going
about
up.
that, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. Like they have their place in history, and that makes me happy because Daniel's also one of those guys who I don't feel like. I feel like Daniel's probably introverted as well, and he's not like you know, he's not a loud person like but he deserves, and Adrian too, like all the guys that were there and started this thing and all the guys working in the garage, because a lot of those guys are unsung heroes too. Uh, but the people that everybody that was involved with that company, like they really put their heart into it, and that like means the world. Like, and I think that's why it's aging well.
Yeah. It's one of those, it's more I feel like it's almost more just as popular today, if not more than it was,
That makes me happy.
in '90s.
Yeah,
Yeah, drums go up for sale and sell within minutes. We're talking, 4 or 5 minutes sometimes a drum is sold, and it just is, and they're selling for sometimes even more than what they cost to be made. Like, that's
yeah.
when you're like, "Okay, something's up." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to continue that way because they will get, more scarce, right? There were only so many made.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
sadly we have tried to go down this rabbit hole to find out how many were made, and the answer is it's a mystery.
Yeah.
They were never serialized, so we run into this problem. But yeah, and I just again I love that you still not also have your drums, but that they get used on records. That the
Every day,
voice is not forgotten, and it's still
every single day, every single day. And they
right
will, like
on.
I said, I can't imagine, especially my bell brass, that will never like, that is my most prized possession for sure.
That's the desert island snare. If you're
Yeah.
stuck on a desert island,
Yes.
that's the
And
one.
and like I said, like I just used it on a movie that's going to come out, this comedy, and I never have to change the snares. I just change what I have on it. One
Hmm,
minute I'll have like a Ritchie ring or some moon gels, and then I take it off, tune it up real high, and it's a completely different snare drum. And it's like all the lowest low, the highest high, and everywhere in between, and it works every time. And it literally takes me 2 seconds to get a new sound. And
that
it's
makes me happy. um, So again, Victor, man, thank you so much for taking the time to, sit here and, talk about all your rich history with the drums and in the studio. I really appreciate it. I hope our listeners really, listen to this and really, absorb it and continue to play these drums. But what are you up to these days, and where can people find you?
I mean, I'm still touring with Alanis. We're gonna do a little Vegas run. We just got back from Europe. Uh, I'm gonna do that too, probably till the day I drop, and then just always on records. And if you listen literally to anything that I've done in the last 15 years, you will hear the bell brass. That's for damn sure. And yeah, I'm just still doing movies and records and whatever people will have me do, still slugging away.
I love it, man. Well, again, Victor, thanks so much. You're going to stick around, and we're going to, do our bonus segment for Patreon. But it's been awesome. Thank you again, Victor.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. That's a wrap with Victor Indrizzo. But from his first visit to Daniel's garage to decades of shaping records across every genre, Victor's story is a reminder of how passion, persistence, and love for the craft can carve out a lasting legacy. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget, Victor stuck around for a bonus Patreon segment where we dive even deeper into his career, his favorite sessions, and the gear that continues to inspire him. You can check that out right now on our Patreon, along with ad-free episodes and more exclusive content. Thanks for listening to the Fully Vented Podcast. Until next time, keep the stories alive and the music loud.